What's going on, everybody? Walter with the RC Addiction Vlog. Welcome back, guys. We're broadcasting again from the RC Anderson Racing Garage, and we are currently working on our short course truck. We've got it up on the workbench, but I wanted to jump on here and have a quick conversation with you guys about some things. I had a conversation the other day with a fellow racer of mine that I race indoor carpet off-road with, that we got to talking about setup and buying parts and aftermarket parts and aftermarket upgrades, and what are some of the better things to buy. And he's been around the industry for a long time, and he goes, I've kind of watched a lot of people just try to buy speed with parts, and they don't just focus on the setup of the car, making sure that that's perfect before they start buying upgrades or spending a lot of money on aftermarket parts that quote unquote are advertised to maybe make you faster or be better than the stock parts, right? A reason to spend money on. And it really got me thinking. I was like, man, we got to do an episode about that, because I'll tell you what, like, I deal with that a little bit, because this hobby, everybody knows how expensive RC racing is, and how expensive parts can be, how expensive maintenance can be, how expensive all of it is. And when you have to deal with that end of it as well, on top of wanting to race, I don't know, however many classes I race, right? I mean, it's not just one or two classes. I race one or two classes in off-road. I race 3 or 4 classes in on-road. I race 2 classes in dirt oval, mini oval. I race 2 classes in 10 scale oval, and I have an 8 scale oval. So it's like, I mean, I'm trying to push the limits of what I can do, of course, just because I try to provide content, and I try to get as many people on board with, that same idea of just sharing the hobby with as many people as possible. And, he was the gentleman I was talking with. He was just like, yeah, I've noticed a lot of people, man, they get right into the hobby. They know how to drive RC cars pretty well, but then they want to get faster. And, based on how things are advertised in the industry, is that they are meant to make you go faster. And he goes, realistically, these people their setup's all screwed up. And I'm like, you know what, that we need to do, like, that's a good topic, because I'm guilty of it. I'm sure everybody listening is guilty of it. It's just part of what we do. It's the nature of how we try to upgrade things to make them faster. Whether that's different tires, different motors, different ESCs, different everything, batteries, shocks, shocks in themselves. There's 100 million different setups that someone can do and run in off-road, and that's kind of the nature of the beast, right? But do you really need those aftermarket parts? Is the stock parts really not enough? And the answer to me, especially after thinking about it for a little while, is no. The aftermarket parts are just fine, and so are the stock ones. The stock ones do just fine too. Does the stock break when you have a gnarly wreck? Of course. Does the aftermarket? Of course. They may be a hair stronger, but guess what? That just gives you the confidence to go that much faster. But when you live by the blade, you die by the blade. And so you end up breaking more parts when you go faster. Yeah, there's definitely some downsides, but there's some, pros. Your car's lighter. So you are, like I said, I'm guilty of it. I'm totally guilty of it. You get down this rabbit hole of upgrades and thinking that, certain things are going to make your car faster. Or like for me, like you guys have seen our custom videos on YouTube about the Bartle chassis for our short course trucks and then our drift cars. Like I did that to an RTR drift car, right? Like who does that? But for me, it's about content for you guys and knowing that there's custom stuff out there available for the guys that want to do it, because they are doing it. But getting back to the topic, when you talk about do aftermarket parts buy you speed? And the answer to me is no. I am guilty of still buying aftermarket parts even now that I think about it, and I even still bought aftermarket parts after the conversation and after making my decision. But it's a topic that's worth talking about, and the reason I bring it up is because I want to, highlight that you guys need to focus on your setups. Take it back to square one. Make sure that all your parts, that your servo horns are centered, that your links are, the ball cups are moving properly, and that the nothing's stripped or bent, or like if that's all in order, then you shouldn't have a problem. Because even if it's not in order with the aftermarket parts, you're gonna have a problem. So I mean, it's crazy to think that you don't necessarily have to have the aftermarket parts. Do we all like them and enjoy what they do for our cars? Absolutely. And will we stop buying the aftermarket parts? No. Of course not. But just thought I would bring that up as a topic so that you guys understood that maybe sometimes when you're struggling, when you're just not in the groove, or your car's not acting the way it's supposed to, before we think about maybe changing parts or buying different parts, we think about looking at our setup, double checking that our setup's on point, double checking that all of our screws are tight, and that, everything is the way it's supposed to be before we start blaming parts that's making me slow, or that's why my car's doing something weird. Because we're usually pretty quick to do that, especially when you're getting frustrated because your car's not acting the way it's supposed to. I've done it. Like I said, I'm guilty of all this stuff, but it's pretty interesting when you talk to somebody that's been in the hobby for a long time, way longer than you have. And like I said, I mean, I've been doing this on and off since I was a kid, but mainly real hardcore into it in the last probably 5 years. And when you hear stuff like that from some of these guys that have been around the hobby longer than you have, it's like it resonates with you, makes you step back and think like, man, maybe that's what I just need to start doing. Like when I'm getting frustrated at the racetrack, whether it's on-road, off-road, dirt oval, on-road oval, I don't care, carpet oval, maybe you just need to look at your setup instead of just trying to put parts to the car to make it faster. We did that a lot with the box, like with some of the stock buggies. Like you look at all these lightweight parts and blah, 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 but then you start breaking other things and things that you weren't breaking when the other stuff was stock. So it's like you sacrifice one for the other, it seems like. And that's not always the case, and I'm not saying it always will be, but it's definitely a topic of conversation, that's for sure. So shout out to you guys for always listening in, and we appreciate you guys watching, for the ones that watch on YouTube. And make sure you hit that subscribe button and smash the like button as well. You might as well, you're right there. And make sure you guys stay tuned. We're always going to have good topics of conversation, I feel like, with this stuff, because I want to bring this stuff up and make sure you guys know all about it. So if you guys enjoy the content, make sure you drop a comment below. But guys, we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.